It has been an intense, very timely meeting of the Council, both on the informal side and in the formal side. And I appreciate a lot the cooperation of all members, and especially of the Croatian presidency, in order to contribute to look for the capacity of the European Union to join the efforts of the international community to help people in Idlib and to protect European borders in accordance with international law and our own regulations.
Hvala lijepa.
Thank you.
Dragi predstavnici medija,
Dear representatives
gospođe
of the
i
media,
dame,
ladies and gentlemen,
dragi Josep Borrell,
dear
visoki
Josep
predstavniče,
Borrell, High Representative,
zahvaljujem što ste upravo
I would like
izabrali
to thank you
da se izvanredno vijeće
for
za vanjske
having
poslove
chosen
održi
that
u
this
Hrvatskoj.
extraordinary formal
Koliko
Foreign
znam,
Affairs Council be held in Croatia.
Ovo je prvi put da se
As far as I
izvanredno vijeće
know, this
održava
is
u jednoj zemlji
the
članici,
first time that
iako je
we have an
praksa
extraordinary council in a member
da
state.
se vijeće za vanjske poslove održava
And the normal
Briselu,
practice is that we
a ponekada
have
u
formal
Luksemburgu.
councils in
Ali
Brussels
evo
and
mi smo
Luxembourg.
imali tu čast i
We have
privilegiju
this honor and
da
privilege
vijeće kojem predsjedava visoki predstavnik
to have
ili
the council that is
kolokvijalno
presided
šef
by the High
europske
Representative,
diplomacije
who is also
za
the chief
vanjske
of
odnose i sigurnosnu
European
politiku,
diplomacy for
da kad su pitali
foreign
imamo li
affairs
kapacitete,
and
mi smo rekli imamo
external
kapacitete,
policy.
imamo
They
logistiku
asked us whether we are able to do
nećete
this,
se
whether we have
razočarati.
all the capacities to do this, and we do, and we
Drago mi je
responded.
da smo danas imali
Of course we do, and you won't be disappointed.
jedno sadržajno,
I'm glad that
učinkovito
today we had
vijeće, dobre
a
razgovore
very constructive
koje je
council,
počelo s
a
obraćanjem
constructive
našega
debate
premijera,
that started
gospodina
with
Andreja
the
Plenkovića,
speech of our
koji
Prime
je
Minister, Mr. Andrej
odaslao snažnu
Plenković,
poruku
who
europskog
sent a
jedinstva,
strong message of
zajedništva,
European unity,
solidarnosti.
togetherness,
Upravo prije
solidarity.
nekoliko dana bio je
Just a
zajedno
few
sa
days ago,
čelnicima
he
europskih institucija
and along
na
with the
grčko-turskoj
heads
granici.
of EU institutions visited the Greek border with Turkey.
Gospodin Borrell rekao je sveobuhvatno
Mr. Borrell
i sadržajno i precizno o čemu smo razgovarali,
in
budući da je i
detail, and
gospodin
he
Borrell je
covered
predsjedao
everything that we
ovim vijećem.
discussed during
Ja
our
samo
council
mogu
today, as
kratko
he was the chair of the
ponoviti
council.
ili reći
I can
da smo
only
razgovarali
briefly
o
say
situaciji u Siriji,
that we discussed the situation
posebno
in
s posebnim
Syria,
naglaskom na
with a
područje
particular
Idliba,
emphasis, of course, on the
koja je
Idlib
svakako
province.
zabrinjavajuća
The
i
situation
predstavlja
there is
rizik za širu
alarming,
regiju.
and it represents
Za
a risk
Europsku
for the
uniju je
wider
važno
region.
osigurati prekid
What is important for the
sukoba
EU is to
i
ensure
zaštitu
that
stanovništva,
the conflicts
što smo
stop
dakako uzeli
and to
na
protect,
znanje
of
nakon
course, the
dogovora
civilians.
između Erdogana
And
i
we took
Putina.
note of this after the agreement that was reached
Razmjeri
between Erdogan
humanitarne
and
krize
Putin.
su dramatični.
The extent of the humanitarian crisis is dramatic.
Potrebno je osigurati pristup humanitarnoj
We need
pomoći.
to
Danas u
ensure
21.
access
stoljeću
for humanitarian aid.
nezamislivo je da postoje
Today,
ratni
in
sukobi,
the 21st century,
a Europska unija
it
je
is hard to
upravo
imagine that we could have
organizacija
such violent conflicts,
vrijednosti
and the EU
koja
is
promiče
an
vladavinu prava,
organization that
zaštitu
promotes
ljudskih prava
human
i
rights,
sva ona prava
the rule of law,
demokracije
and all other
prava
rights that
na ljudski život.
are understood under
I tu je Europska
democracy.
unija snažna u potpori i
Here,
brizi
the EU
za
wants to be strong in
osobito za
supporting
civile
and
i
caring for,
najranjiviju
especially
skupinu
for the
kada
civilians
su u pitanju žene
and
i
most
djeca.
vulnerable groups, such as
Rusija i
women and
Turska
children.
su jučer postigle dogovor o
Russia and
primirju,
Turkey
kao
reached
što
an
sam
agreement
rekao,
on
koje
a
je
ceasefire
ključno i za
yesterday.
situaciju
This is
vezano uz izbjeglice
of
i
key importance
migrante
for this situation,
i pritisak na granici
especially related
prema
to
Europi.
refugees and the
Nadamo se
migratory
da će to
pressures
osigurati
towards Europe.
pristup humanitarnoj
We
pomoći.
hope that we
U
will
tom smislu
ensure the
iskazali
access
smo
for humanitarian
snažnu potporu
assistance.
Grčkoj,
We also
Bugarskoj
expressed a
i
strong
Cipru.
support to
Sada
Bulgaria,
je
to
ključno
Greece,
pružiti
Bulgaria and Cyprus.
potporu Grčkoj,
Now it is
koja
important
je
to support
najpogođenija
Greece,
aktualnom situacijom.
who is most affected by the present
Hrvatsku,
situation.
koja je suočena s pojačanim
Croatia
pritiskom na granici s
is
Bosnom i
also
Hercegovinom,
facing increased pressure
važna je
at the border with Bosnia
suradnja
and
s državama
Herzegovina.
u jugoistočnoj
And
Europi,
this is why it is important for
dakle
us
sa
to
zemljama
cooperate with
Zapadnog Balkana,
Southeast Europe, with the
i
countries of the
pomoć
Western
kako bi
Balkans.
se mogli nositi s
We
migracijskim
need to help them to
pritiskom
cope with
i svim
migratory
izazovima
pressures
povezanim s
and
time.
all challenges related to this.
Važan je također i dijalog,
It is also important to
politički dijalog
have
i
political
angažman s
dialogue
Turskom,
and
koji
engage in
zbrinjava
this matter with
4
Turkey.
miliona izbjeglica i
There are
migranata.
4 million
U tom
refugees and
pogledu
migrants in Turkey
osobito
at the
držimo
moment.
važnim,
In this
istaknuto važnim
context,
da se Turska
we
nastavi
would like to
pridržavati
emphasize
izjave
how important it is that
između
Turkey
Europske unije
abides
i Turske,
by the
koja je
statement between
potpisana
EU and
2016.
Turkey that was
godine.
signed in
Hvala vam lijepa.
2016. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thomas Kutschka, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Hi, Rep. Besides security guarantees, what exactly does the EU expect of Russia and Turkey to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian access to people in Idlib? Precisely, for instance, does Turkey need to open more border posts? Thank you.
The European Union is working through United Nations agencies. We are funding them, but we don't have a strong team on the ground. So I don't know exactly if the solution is to open more gates in the closed border or facilitate the traffic through the gates which already exist. But one thing is clear. 1 million people needs to drink, to eat, to sleep every day. There is nothing there unless the things that can be brought by the humanitarian people. Every day 100 trucks, heavy trucks, were crossing the border from the Turkey side in order to provide and to facilitate all these resources. You can imagine the logistic difficulties of bringing food, medicines, and shelters to 1 million people in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the war. You can imagine, no? I would like to show you these satellite pictures, and you could see what does it mean, the logistic that it requires. And there are a lot of people in the ground, and I want to thank them their efforts and their work, because one thing is to pay, another thing is to go there implementing, no? Having the risk of being bombed, and bringing and distributing food, medicines, and shelters to a moving population who's displacing closer and closer to the border, which is closed. You can imagine the situation. So, what we expect is that the ceasefire be effective on the ground and on the air, because it's from the air that the bigger risk comes, in order to facilitate the human work, the work of the humanitarians. But we don't have an army there, not even an army of humanitarian people. We are funding organizations from the United Nations and from the OAG who does this difficult job. So I suppose that it will be possible to open more gates in the border and to facilitate, to open a gate in the border, you need to facilitate the pass of 100 trucks. It's not a matter of making a hole in the border. You need a road, a paved road. There are not many. So I hope that this will facilitate an urgent action, which we are funding, and we are ready to fund more. But once again, the problem is not exactly to have money, but to have the capacity, the physical or logistical capacity of acting.
The ladies. RTL. Mr. Borrell, you said this morning at the doorstep that you would talk to the ministers about providing more money to Turkey to manage the refugee crisis. Did you talk about that? And what will happen to the refugees now at the Greek border? They came to the border with hope of entering Europe. What will happen to them now?
Le Conseil a décidé ce qu'il a décidé.
The Council decided what it
Vous pouvez
decided.
voir, il n'y a pas de décision additionnelle
You can
de
see
funding.
that there is no additional
La
decision
présidente de
on
la Commission,
funding.
pendant sa visite
The Commission,
à la frontière grecque, a
or the
engagé
President
des
of the
sommes
Commission,
considérables
when
pour
she visited
aider
the
à la
Greek
Grèce à
border,
faire face à cette situation.
made funds,
Et il
sizable
faudra
funds
voir dans les
available
jours
to
qui
Greece
viennent
to address the situation. We
qu'est-ce qu'on
have to
peut faire
see
de plus.
what else we can
Mais la
do
première
over the
chose
next
à
few
faire,
days.
c'est de stopper,
But the
d'arrêter
first thing
le flux
is
des
to
migrants
contain the flow
qui
of
croient que la frontière était ouverte
migrants
et
who
conséquence essayent de
believe
la passer.
that the border
Ça,
is
c'est la
open
première
and
chose à
try to
faire.
cross
C'est
it.
pas une
That's what we
question
need to do
de
first of
financial
all.
support, c'est une question de
It's not a
communication.
question about
And I want to use this
financial support,
opportunity
it's
to
a question of
communicate
communication.
that the news about the alleged openness of the European borders in Athens, in Greece, Bulgaria or Cyprus are false. And people should not try to move to there. If we want to avoid critical situations, people have to know the truth. They don't have to tell the people go to Europe because the border is open. And hundreds of people have already passed. Let's stop this game.
Yes, please, here.
Behrin Khan from the Financial Times. Hi, Rep. Can I ask, what is the EU's assessment of the current situation at the border? Because we've heard reports that the Turkish authorities are sending people back to Turkish cities, that the flow of people to the border has stopped, and effectively that Mr. Erdogan is now back in compliance with the terms of the EU-Turkey statement. If that is the case, then when are you willing to then have the conversation about upholding that agreement, given that perhaps this period of blackmail or manipulation seems to have subsided?
Je préfère ne pas utiliser des gros mots.
To be very careful of my choice
La
of
tâche de
words.
diplomate, c'est pas de mettre
The task
du
of
bois
a
au feu.
diplomat is not to
Je préfère
be too punchy
ne pas
with
utiliser
language
les mots que vous
sometimes.
avez employés.
I'm
Tout au contraire, faire un appel positif et constructif à la coopération pour éviter la confrontation dont il y aura toujours quelqu'un innocent qui va en payer les conséquences. Donc, je suis ravi de savoir que le flux de personnel vers la frontière s'est arrêté, peut-être parce qu'ils ont pris conscience. Et l'idée de que, allez-y, c'est ouvert, ça n'a rien à voir avec la réalité. Allez-y, c'est ouvert. C'est pas ça.
I mean, obviously, the message that the border was open, so you can go, was not an accurate message.
Constructif qu'aujourd'hui les ministres ont voulu adresser à travers vous à l'opinion publique et en particulier aux personnes concernées. Vous savez, je viens d'avoir avec le président Michel une très longue conversation avec le président Erdogan. Donc, nous avons eu déjà les contacts que vous demandez et après le cessez-le-feu, il devra y en avoir d'autres. Pour l'instant, le Conseil n'est pas entré là. La première chose à faire, c'est normaliser la situation de la frontière.
Nuruddin Fridi from Arabian News Channel. My question is to you, Mr. High Representative, as well as to the Foreign Affairs Minister of Croatia. We understand that the European Union will not negotiate under migration pressure. We understand that there is an emergency for the humanitarian to get access to the civilian in North Syria. What I would like to ask you is about what's happening between European Union and Turkey. You met your counterpart, the Foreign Affairs Minister of Turkey. You have been with Mr. Michel, Mr. Erdogan. What Turkey is looking for in its relationship with the European Union? What can you offer Turkey? Thank you.
Écoutez, je suis ici pour vous rendre compte de la discussion au Conseil, pas pour passer en revue toutes les dimensions du problème des rapports entre la Turquie et l'Union européenne. Il y en a beaucoup. Il y a les problèmes, par exemple, de l'électricité, de l'exploitation des ressources énergétiques, du drilling dans les eaux chypriotes. Ça n'a pas été dans l'ordre du jour, mais le problème, il est là. Et il y a tout le problème par rapport à les visas, la modernisation de l'accord sur le custom unions, the process of enlargement itself. There are so many issues which in the last years have been growing and creating a set of complex and difficult relationships between the European Union and Turkey, that for sure we will have to talk about all of them. And we understand the big pressure that Turkey is suffering. 4 million people, 4 million refugees, is the biggest numbers of refugees that any country in the world is facing. So we have to understand very well the pressure that Turkey is receiving. That could even increase if there is a big number of people trying to go into Turkey from the Syrian border. But one thing is to recognize this problem and the willingness of contributing to face them, and another thing is to react under pressure. We have to normalize the situation, and then there is a lot of work in order to try to find solutions to these many issues that today have become difficult to deal with.
So we share our common approach towards Turkey, but of course we should just not to keep dialogue. We are aware of the fact that the 4 million Turkey is hosting 4 million migrants, refugees, migrants, and Turkey is also obliged to respect their common statement signed in 2016, and we insist on them just not to providing this common agreement. We should also take into consideration that Turkey is also not Erdogan, and Erdogan is not Turkey. It's a big country, and with 2 legs, one in Asia and another in Europe. And what is actually the European value? Just not to keep dialogue. It doesn't mean that so we are in favor that to support the people or the countries who are just breach on international law. There is a lot to do, and it's diplomacy, it's European values, and we are just stick to and to be solidar, to show their unity, strengthen, and we today express our vigilance and resolve. And it is really was successful, extraordinary FSC. That's all we finished just in it was not expected that so will be finished so in this due time our discussion, our meeting. First we started yesterday at the evening as less formal or informal discussion, and today in the formal. And we are very, very happy to come to conclusion and to be constructive during our meetings. Of course, it's in dialogue, and as our High Representative already mentioned, he is also a diplomat and European chief of diplomacy, of course, but to rely on the member countries, and it's also up to Croatia. We took over the EU presidency, and it's really an honor, a big honor, of course, and we like to do our best in this regard. And to speak and to have talks with the partners, and you should also to know that Turkey has a candidate status country and in the European Union, but of course we should to see and to keep up dialogue. Keep dialogue. It's the most important so far. Keep dialogue. Keep dialogue.
Robin, please.
Robin from Reuters. Question for the High Rep. The statement today from the ministers made it clear that Turkey's decision to break the 2016 deal is unacceptable. But how do you respond to Turkey's point of view that they say that the EU, under that deal hasn't actually met its promises either? I'm referring to lifting visa requirements on Turkish citizens by the end of 2016, the upgrading of the customs union, new accession chapters being opened, and also the large-scale resettlement of refugees in Turkey to the EU. Thank you.
You know, I spent a long time talking with my Turkish colleagues, Defense Minister, Interior Minister, Foreign Affairs Minister, Vice President in charge of migration, even with President Erdogan, to talk about that. And for sure, we have different points of view about the amount of resources that we have been funding in comparison with the amount that we agreed to fund. And also about several issues, visa liberalization, customs union modernization, many other things which were in the agreement, which has not been brought to a final conclusion. And the Turkish side claims that they should. That's a matter of discussion. That's a matter of reviewing the engagement from one side and the other. The exact figures is that we have been providing in cash terms about 3.4 billion euros in cash terms, really paid. But if we talk in terms of commitments, money who has been engaged but not yet disbursed, it will be more closer to 4.5. And the others are on the pipeline, on the way. You know, the European Union has some specific ways of working, through programs, contracts with ONG, and all the money will be disbursed by the end of the year. But by the time being, it's committed, but not still disbursed. It depends on which definition you take of expenditure. No? Expenditure means when the final cash is being paid, or expenditure means when you commit, you engage. It's a budgetary terminology that you can bring to different positions depending on which variable you take into account. But for sure, there are agreements that has not been implemented yet. Some of them are blocked, others can be reviewed. When there is a disagreement between the two parts, and each part claims that it's the other part's fault, but it's clear that today has been a call for the migrants to go to the border, alleging that the border was open. And I want to use this opportunity, and I thank the Croatian for giving this opportunity to send a clear message. Don't go to the border. The border is not open. If someone tells you that you can go because the border is open, you can go freely to Europe, through Greece or to Cyprus, that's not true. Avoid a situation in which you could be in danger. Avoid escalation of the crisis. Avoid moving to a closed door. And please don't tell people that they can go because it's not true. And I think that everybody listen to this message, then we can avoid critical situations. We can avoid events that unhappily can produce losses of human beings. Let's see the situation the way it is. Normalize it is the prerequisite to talk about everything else.
Over there, please.
Yes, hi. Yasmina Kuzmanovic, Bloomberg, for Mr. Borrell. From another angle, right, the EC has recently recommended again that the talks be started, accession talks be started with North Macedonia and Albania. One of these countries, specifically North Macedonia, is on the Balkan migrant route. Do you think in this context it would be a good idea to maybe encourage these countries by offering them something more, especially North Macedonia? Or how do you feel, do you think you can count on their cooperation right now in the migrant crisis, considering that they were pushed away recently?
I'm here to explain the result of the deliberations and decisions of the Council. We haven't dealt with all problems in the world, but the position of the Commission is the same today than yesterday. We support the opening of negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania. The position of the Commission remains unchanged. Now I'm talking now like Vice President of the Commission in charge of external relations. I took my hat of High Representative of the Council and I put my hat of Vice President of the Commission. On this condition, I can tell you that the position of the Commission is the same. Now I take the hat of the High Representative of the Council and I have to say that I don't know.
Let's keep that hat. For the last question, please, Jacopo.
Thanks, Jacopo Ragazzi with Politico. Mr. Borrell, a couple of questions. One is, when you say what you expect nowadays is fire to be effective on ground and on the air, I see that now is also in the language of the statement. I understand that this is the compromise on the no-fly zone, but since there are at least two countries here that sit in the European Nation Security Council, France and Estonia in this moment, have they been tasked to actually explore this at the Security Council or not? And second question, at a certain point you said that you are planning to go, I will visit Russia as soon as possible, and I was wondering whether you expect to meet only Mr. Lavrov or also other top officials there in Russia, including Putin or not? Thanks.
Vous savez, le plus tôt possible. It's not for tomorrow.
As soon as possible. It's not
because
tomorrow.
my agenda in the next 2 months is full. First, I have to go to Ukraine. I will also send a strong signal about the 5 principles on the respect of Minsk agreement, which is the core of these 5 principles. All of them are important. Right? And when I talk about one principle, it doesn't mean that I am forgetting about the other 4. I think it's next Monday or the following Monday that I am planning to go to the Donbass region. But later, I think it's quite normal that the High Representative for Foreign Policy, trying to talk and work about making Europe strong on the world, has a relationship with one of the most important neighbors. So it should not be considered as a new or something extraordinary that the High Representative visit Russia. It's part of normal. And when I have the opportunity, and the Russian authorities will be ready to have an intense program of meetings, for sure I will be very happy to do it. As I did in Turkey, a couple of days ago, I spent almost 2 days having the relationship with all Turkish authorities. And I think that, well, this is a moment of crisis, and we are not in a moment of crisis with Russia. So we can't wait as soon as possible, maybe in the immediate days. About the non-flying zone, we are very much aware that the European Union cannot say wishful thinking that cannot be implemented. And you say today, well, we want non-fly zones. You want. The problem is not what you want. The problem is what you can. The political life is a good relationship between your purposes and your capacities. You forget your capacities and you only think about your purposes, then it's not political, that's magic. We don't want to do magic. We want to act according with our capacities and resources. And we don't have the capacity of establishing a non-fly zone in Syria. We can wish it, and we can mobilize our resources on the framework of the Security Council. And as you said, there are member states who are part of it. I don't exclude it, but it was not a decision that could be taken by the Council.
Thank you very much. I will give the floor now to the Minister for a couple of words of conclusion before we finish.
Thank you very much, and I would like to congratulate you, not only to our High Representative and his staff, and for this excellent job we did. and we are still doing. And also thank you very much for your participation. We like to see the media, the representatives of media, and of course I would like also to express my gratitude to my associates, my colleagues, and who just were not so visible, but they were here just to organize it. The Secretary of the President's here, and if you just looked into the building and the premises here, so I was also surprised, although I was so many times here, but it's really European. And dear Joseph, thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you very much for your constructive contribution. I think so we answered the question you wanted to her for us, and of course just keep doing, and we are on the same side on the European values, and we should to promote peace, stability, security, and of course it is just an answer to Mrs. Kuzmanovic that regarding the Western Balkans, if you can just look into the statement, there is a sentence close cooperation will also continue with the Western Balkans partners in this respect. Thank you very much. Gracias muchos.
Thank you very much to all of you.